everyone. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Vinnie, and I'm an independent Agile coach. And my talk today is titled, Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls, Stick to the Experiments That Would Guide You. And I know you're probably singing this tune in your head, but don't worry, we'll have an opportunity to hopefully sing at the end. So a wee bit about me. I'm not sure where I'm from anymore, so don't ask me where I'm from. I've basically lived in Scotland, in Northern Ireland, in Singapore, in Malaysia, in Australia, both east and west, because it's a 5-hour flight between them, so it's really important to make that distinction. And Italy as well. But home is Edinburgh, Scotland, and I like volunteering my time to help build our beautiful Agile community. So, what are the fun facts that you will not find about me on LinkedIn? Well, I like long walks by the beach, sunsets, dogs, especially rough collies, very specific, and I like solving problems and puzzles. They sometimes call me Miss Marple at work. But I tell a lie, I don't really like walking or long walks by the beach. I just like to sit and bundle myself with a lot of layers. So my talk is structured around 3 storytelling acts. And this talk is about a coach in the midst of a strong waterfall presence trying to make an impact. This talk is a story about me. And so I will present my case study, and at the end, I will share my learnings, and hopefully you would share your learnings as well, because we will all take away different things, and we all look at things from different perspectives. I previously worked for this organization, and then a year and a half, I came back. I will try and be as honest as I can while being respectful to the organization and the people in it. So what I want you to do is just sit back and buckle up for the ride ahead. Act 1 goes, bloody hell, Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore. So let me tell you a wee bit about this company. This company is a command and control organization. And I know we always use this loosely, right? We'll always say, oh, so-and-so is command and control, this and this is command and control. Well, this is actually a command and control. People were referred to as levels. For example, when is the new level 12 joining? Oh, that's a level 7 job. Oh, well, we'll just go ahead and have a wee chat, with the level 18. And when I first joined that organization, I was contracting then, I thought it was like the different floors. So I actually took a lift and went all the way up to that floor. People were also referred to by their surnames. Now, this was in contrast to our Australian culture. This is us at voting day. I bet this wasn't us yesterday at our voting day. So as you can see, we're pretty casual, pretty, chilled. We just rock up in our thongs, which we call flip-flops here. And sometimes we don't even wear shoes. So pretty nice and easygoing, right? So a year and a half ago, there was a consultancy that was hired, and after doing their initial scoping, they decided to carry out a 2-day Big Bang launch. There was about 160 people, and my role was to support that 2-day launch, to support the teams and what is known as ARTS. So Agile Release Train, loosely based across the SAFe framework, yeah? So if you're familiar with the Lisa Atkins coaching competency, I personally felt that this consultancy was heavy on one stance. And I personally felt that because of where the organization was at in their journey towards agility, I felt that they could benefit from expert advice, yeah? Let me tell you a bit about the office atmosphere. Very few people had laptops. You had to be level 127 to get a laptop, yeah? There was desk phones, like big desk phone, and I was running away from the guy that he wanted to install a desk phone on me, and I was like, no, I don't want any desk phone. The desks were large, big desks. I mean, that was great, right? Depending on how big you like your desk. And the meeting rooms were bare. There was no windows, it was just tables and chairs, and it was very uninspiring. And I felt like I'd walked into an office in the 1980s. Now, I wasn't working in the 1980s, but I think I've seen a good few movies to know what the atmosphere looks like, right? So this consultancy, their contract ended, and for 6 months, this organization was coachless. And the head of department one day rang me, and he said, I see that you're available. I'm going to make you an offer that you cannot refuse, because we don't have a coach, and a few people really want you back. And we're kind of looking for someone with your mix of experience. And so we had a chat, because my remit was, the same amount of people, I think 160, 170, there was about 18 to 20 teams. So I'm like, we're going to need to have a chat about this before to see what we can do and how we're going to set expectations, right? So what was it like 2 years after? So I'm coming back after 2 years, what was it like? There was no product, so no product owners, that was what they had. They were not measuring, there was no metrics, nobody was tracking any spend, at least not that I knew about. The departments were not aligned, and there was no working from home except for a very small number of people. Now, this is Australia. We were the last country to lift our borders, one of the last. So this was very strange because everybody was kind of working from home, right? What about the office environments? There were still no laptops. Some of the people were not on the right framework. The teams were not on the right framework that would enable them, to be their best team self. But 2 rooms had the ability to connect, like what I'm doing here. So good progress, right? Most of the people had not seen Miro or Mural, and one person was really excited that I could change my team's background. Now, don't go telling that person that you can use filters now on Teams as well, right? They wanted to continue in SAFe, and in their minds, they were Agilists, and they wanted to tighten up SAFe. They were still command and control. That's not going to change. So I realized this was going to be hard. This was going to be very, very hard. So I'm going to tell you a bit about the key people and the player in the system. This is biggest boss. This person is the head of the company, let's just say that, right on top, looking after everybody or all the departments. Now, this is boss. That's boss. He hired me. And below boss was managers or RTEs. If you're familiar with the SAFe terminology, that's release trained engineers. And across here, we had the consulting account manager. Now, that's how I was fed through. Why do you think we had a consulting account manager on site? Because more than half of the teams were actually consultants from this organization. It was that big of an operation. We had one person there, So with these teams, they're not people that came and went with these consultants. Some of them have been in the organization for 5 years, 10 years. I even met somebody for 12 years. So these are long-term consultants already in the system. So I'm actually giving you all these backgrounds so you can help paint a picture of how it's like. Now, these people had rooms. All these people had rooms except for the teams. They did not have rooms. They all had their individual rooms. I had a room because as an Agile coach, I was up to level 1021. So I'm like sitting in my room, no window, that really affects me. I just said, look, I'm going to sit outside. So I started sitting outside, and the room folks said, why are you sitting outside? And I'm like, nobody puts Vinnie in a room, right? Nobody does that. And I'm like confused why they were confused that I wanted to sit outside. The thing is, I needed to sit outside because they were my peers, right? They were my colleagues. It's not like they needed my help. I also needed their help. So I had to be close to the ground and listen to what was going on. Act 2. In the eye of the storm, but a cup of tea solves Britain's problems. That's what my mom always says. Cup of tea will always solve Britain's problems. So I felt like this company was like, things are not going great. They thought they were fine, right? So in Act 2, I'm going to talk to you about how I solve problems using experiments. I did do quite a bit of team coaching, and I have the metrics to show about it and work around the product space, because I believe at looking at a system holistically, but this talk is about lifting it up and focusing at change from the top. Okay, so what happened first? The entry strategy, right? And this is a big learning because I did not do this before, yeah? So I said to boss, boss, I'm back. You gotta let people know that I'm back. Oh, but Vinnie, don't worry. People know who you are. It's like, it's only here for 2 months before, People have come and gone, maybe we have new people. And boss was like, how about, Vinnie, that's fine, like, you still look the same. And I was like, that's great, it's good that you say I look the same because I've got great genes. But guess what? My remit is actually different, and I think we really need to communicate this to people, right? So boss agreed, and he said, right, I'll send an email. This is the email, obviously redacted. And he says, this month we welcome Vinnie Gill back, and Vinnie was part of the team to help merge and transform, blah, 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 in the division. And then he says, what will I be responsible for? Because my remit this time was obviously different from what I was doing before. And then I said to boss, I said, you need to let them know that I'm not just here, for the managers, the RTs, or the Scrum Masters. Because most of the time, that's what they say that we're here for. But the truth is, we're here for everybody, and I also need everybody's help as well. So that's the sentence there. She's here to help everyone, not just blah, blah, blah. I'll be working with Vinnie as a product owner for the transformation once again. So there he is communicating what his role is going to be, right? I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty about, product manager and product owner. This is what they had, okay? We meet people where they're at. And then boss said, I need a quote from you. And I thought long and hard about my quote. Like, what is the message that I actually want to start with? What do I want people to know? And he says, and I said, I've worked with multiple organizational transformation, and there's one salient point I would like to make. We all have the responsibility to do our part to support our growth journey because it is our evolution. And if we show up with the right mindset, we will succeed. Yeah. So here, 2 key things I was starting to plant in the seed is the word growth. I don't like the word transformation. That's what the industry uses. Can't really do anything about it, but I try when I use my language to articulate growth because there is no start and end. I find it quite offensive if somebody says I need to transform, like, because in my head I'm like Shakira, but you might think I'm Beyonce, right? So the next thing is I want to say it is our evolution. Everybody has the responsibilities, not just you or me or like Agile coach or Scrum Master. And then it says, if Vinnie reaches out to you, please support her. And alternatively, there is a board on the window, blah, 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 office, level 1, real level, floor. And you're welcome to use any ideas, feedback, suggestions, and boards. You can reach out to Vinnie using your emails, favorite method, emails, team, in person, whatever tickles your fancy. Welcome back, Vinnie. So here, I actually had a Kanban board on one of the walls. And I had all my options and everything, and people could see what I was doing. At the same time, boss also had a Kanban board for all the work that he was doing, and everybody could see. This was really, really rare, but if I want change, if we want change, we have to start role modeling the behaviors that we want. I also had the board duplicated on Mural as well, because remember, a lot of them had not seen it, so I thought, I'm just going to try something to help everybody out. And it was sent by email and Teams as well, because Teams adoption was fairly low and we wanted to increase it. And he said, put a photo there, Vinnie, just in case people don't know. So that's the entry strategy, right? Letting people know who you are and what you're here to do. Be open, honest, and transparent. So what did I do next? I observed, I built relationships, I had a lot of coffees, I gathered information and feedback, and most of the time I was trying to understand as opposed to solutioning. And that was really difficult for me because I had been in this organization before, right? So I was already pre-fed about some stuff, and I really had to leave all of that behind me. And I also had to find a balance between observing and showing value, right? So I grouped the themes. I remember going back and going on my carpet, and the whole carpet's full of Post-its and whatnot. And I grouped it into different themes. And I said, I need to cut across to find the same problems. What's the strategy that is going to give us the biggest bang for our buck, right? Because sometimes I know we always say, let's just do some quick wins, and let's just do some quick wins. But the truth is sometimes you really need to address the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room wants to be addressed. The elephant in the room needs to be addressed. Yeah? So I set up a group of volunteers, put an email out and Teams, and I said, who would like to help me do this, right? Let's just form a team. Yeah, a few people came along, not just Scrum Masters and Agile coaches. We had, a good few representation from the team members. And that's how we started, right? So consulting boss was also very excited, and he was very curious about what was going on. So he was also part of the team. So I had 2 leaders, boss was obviously there, 2 leaders already starting to be a part of this, right? It's not just, I just support Vinnie. They were showing up and coming up, so actively supporting the transformation. The management team, they were not really interested at first, and maybe they were too busy and they had a lot of work, but you just start with who you have, right? They're the right people. So after we identified what the problems were, to try and improve the situation, we decided to design some experiments. Okay? So this is an example of a simple experiment template that we use. Why experiments? Well, it's because I wanted the team to know that we needed to solve the problems. We don't have the answers. We don't have the right approach. What we need is to test and learn, inspect and adapt, right? So I didn't care if this was filled in properly or not. I wanted them to have a try. I wanted us to have a try. And I wanted us to actually co-create our journey to agility. Because a 50-pager is not going to solve your problems. I'm not going to sit there and write every single thing and how to do this and how to do that, right? The other thing is, most of the time we spend time gathering data, feedbacks. Even if you look at the team level at retrospectives, you get it, and then what? Nobody does anything, right? You kind of lose people, you lose hope. So we really needed something to happen because we wanted to show them and wanted to build credibility with them, and that's how you build trust, right? Even with metrics, you see metrics, so and so much percentage are late and so much percentage are unhappy. Yeah, and then what? Because next month's the same number of people, right? Do something about it. So here's the first problem, right? The first problem is people are not having fun, no coming together as a department, and the atmosphere, low energy, divide between management and people. So we sat together, we're like, okay, so what is the hypothesis for a solution? Well, if people can come together for an activity that will boost their energy, maybe that might solve the problem. So what is an experiment that is small, quick, and safe to fail? And we decided on a mentee quiz. Yeah, so I typically run mentees in most of the companies that I go for, and then sometimes they call me the mentee queen. And I say, well, I'm not really sure if this organization is going to warm up to mentee. I'm not really sure. And then they tell me, oh, but Vinnie, don't worry, you said inspect and adapt, test and learn, right? And I'm like, okay, good, this is working. Like, they are coaching me, so that's good. So what will prove the hypotheses? If more than 15 people attend the first quiz, and then we have a 15% increase for the second and third, we know that this is the right approach to solve the problem. But if less than 15 people are dialing in, second Friday, if there's a decrease, and then we will kill the experiment. So most of the time, we just go with the solution. We don't set this up front. You need to set this up front. So we're going to do it for 3 weeks. It's just 15 minutes on a quick Friday afternoon. That's what we were going to do, right? Menti was a huge success. People loved it. They dialed in. After that, they would be chatting with their managers and team leads, and they had something to talk about, right? The floor was buzzing, right? This was really working. There was a huge shift in mood, and it grew organically. Like the first time we only had like 14 people, then we had 40, 80, and then it was in the hundreds. We also made it optional. The meeting was titled Optional. This was new. When it's optional, they were curious, right? Like, wow, no one's treated us like adults before. So we're going to try and play Menti. So typically, you can whip your phone out, scan the QR code, but I'm not really sure we're going to have time for that. So we're going to have a quick try with all of you. So when I actually flip the screen, you're going to see 4 options, 1, 2, 3, 4. And have a wee think in your head what your answer is going to be. And when I say 3, 2, 1, you put your answer out. Okay? Does that sound good? All right, cool. So before that, there's also a leaderboard, right? So with Menti, you not only need to be correct, you need to be quick. And after every question, the leaderboard would refresh. Okay? So let's play Menti. Question 1. What do you think this answer is? Okay, have a wee think. And I'm going to say 3, 2, 1. Very good. It is Paddington Bear. What's the national animal of Scotland? Is it horse, unicorn, Highland cow, or Charmander? 3, 2, 1. It's unicorn. So I actually see that I actually used the unicorn emoji. Like I kind of claimed it as my own. Next question. What do you think is this object or animal below? This is a bit hard one, right? 3, 2, 1. That's a basketball. You see? Last question. Which of this is not part of the food offered at Agile on the beach? Is it scampi and chips, Brazilian coconut chicken, Portuguese coconut chicken, or salmon sashimi? 3, 2, 1, go for it. It is Portuguese coconut chicken. Some of you really know the food menu well, right? So you see what I did? You're laughing, you're talking, right? This was different, right? It's working. So Menti was a mix of general knowledge questions, fun, and company-specific. People got competitive. They got very competitive. I used to get Teams messages to say, Vinnie, I think you need to lower down the countdown timer, because if you're doing it on your phone, the timer counts down. And said, like, there are people actually discussing it. So they've time, and some of them are in the room doing it, so you really need to bring it down. And I was like, oh, sure, I'll do it. And the fact that they're reaching out to me goes to show that this is working. So we're like happy that this Menti experiment is working, right? And Menti took quite a bit of my time. First, I had to research the questions, put the questions in, and then, of course, I have to test it, right? I've tested. So we came up with this thing to say, if you won the Menti quiz, you would supply the set, and I would help them put it in, right? And you would also host it. So very slowly, I'm like kind of going in the background, clicking next, 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 right? I still do this with some of the companies I work for. They still call me back to do a good mentee quiz, and I do really like it. So the next thing we decided to do was Boss's idea. Boss came up with this idea called Spin the Wheel. He wanted to host this to show leadership. Now, Spin the Wheel is something we do that we said that we will show gratitude. So what happened is basically we'd collect nominations, for example, on a Monday, and on a Friday afternoon, we'd have Spin the Wheel where we'll all gather around and spin the wheel. And if you spin the wheel, there's a box, and you can choose what you want. A chocolate, a stress toy, or even a coffee voucher. Australians love their coffee. We're big into that, very fussy. And what we started to do was also let the RTE, so the management team, host it. So every week they would host it. So if you're hosting it, you would read the nominations. And if you host it, as in the managers, you would also have to replenish the box. Yeah. So gratitude is a really big thing because it helps people feel more positive in their emotions. It's helped them relish their good experience. You know, we're like building relationships. But what was it is some of these people had not heard thank you and being read out loud. So they were pretty happy. And this is what I did, just a simple form. You just send it out, and then you just read the nominations. Now, some were really funny, like, thank you for buying banana chips. That helped me write the best code in my life, right? Just really funny stuff. There was one there for me, which was really good, because for me, this actually was an indicator that what the team was doing, the volunteer team was doing, was actually heading in the right direction, right? It says, enjoyable opportunity for general knowledge, also coaching practitioners across, helping them uplift skill, great work. And then you can also see some other things like, thanks for being patient with me, teaching the new tech person, this was nice. Things were working slowly. Things were starting to change, right? So that's experiment one, problem one. Problem two. Now let's have a wee chat about PI, shall we? I'm framework agnostic. It's not the way that I lead as a coach. I want to do what is best for the people that I'm working with, and they were not getting the message because I felt that there were some fundamental issues that they had to fix before, putting a 2-day PI event. Now, if you were agile, right, say at the team level, if I go back after 1 year, and if I look at the team again, you wouldn't be the same. You would be similar, but you would have changed a lot of practices because you would have worked along the shu-ha-ri curve. But I find if you were doing a scaling framework, you would just be at the shu level. Shu, 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 shu. You're just doing. You're not breaking it. You're not learning it, right? But they still wanted this, still wanted a PI, and I thought, well, maybe it's the way that I'm articulating it, right? Maybe there's something wrong with the way I'm saying it. So I turned up at our volunteer group meeting, and I said, guess what? I figured it out. We can do a 2-day PI. And they were like, oh, Vinnie, that's fantastic. I knew you could do it. I was like, yeah, Vinnie's a miracle worker. So it's going to cost you about 30 to 35,000. And it just went quiet, completely quiet. And they were like, how so? Well, first we need a venue, then we need to feed people, and then, I need to go around and check what everybody needs. And then, that portfolio board that we haven't been, coming to consensus, we really need to fix that too. And then remember that more than half was consultants, right? So, you're going to take consultants out and all of that. And they were like, okay, yeah, no. And I was like, okay, so let's look back at the problem. What does the problem say? So the problem says that teams don't know what other teams are going to do, even though they're in the same value stream or the same art. Work is not visible and nobody's communicating. Strange, right? Because you bring people to the office, you'd think they'd talk to each other. Yeah. So it is our role to help them get ready. So before the 2-day PI, let's see if we can get together with 1 hour to begin with, right? 1 hour is fine. So the working group set, and they decided to create this second experiment template. And what they decided was to try a sync. So we'd have 3 arts go 2 weeks, and then the next 2 weeks, it will be the following 3 arts. And it will be a quick 5 minutes per team, answering 3 simple questions. And what will prove the hypotheses? Well, if people found value in the sync, if 60% or more know what the other teams are doing, because nobody really knew what everybody was doing, and more than 40% found that the sync was valuable. But how do we know that this sync is not going to solve that problem, where the teams don't know what the other teams are doing and no one's communicating? Well, if the sync brought no value for more than 60%, then we know it's not working and we'll find something else, right? So we decided to have a try to set the sync up. And I know this is common in a lot of places that you work with, but I did give you the background of the organization that I was at. So this is what we did. We decided to call the team leads or scrum masters or person representing the team and to say, we're going to have a quick 20 minutes info session. So we ran this info session, and these were the notes me and another team leader decided to host together. And it has Vinnie hit record, because sometimes I forget to hit record, and we had to record it. I'm sure we've all been there. We say we recorded, and no, we forgot to record. So we explained to them why, and we told them to go back and let your teams know. Why are we doing this, right? And we said it's going to be 3 minutes, really quick. No asking questions. You can chat it in the teams. And after that, you go and talk to that person. Go talk to that team member, because we wanted them to talk. We didn't want this to blow out, and like non-stop questions. And we said, what this is and what this is not. So call out to the teams. You need to have a discussion. Stay back or arrange later, right? And then we'll have couple of questions at the end. Not questions for the sync, questions for our info session. So these were the notes. And so we started with this. What we worked on last month, now, and next. So each team would have that time and they would go. And after 2 months, the sync was doing really well. So we decided to add a bit more questions, right? What are the risk, issues, and dependencies? Help needed from other teams. And we also wanted to ask them, what did we learn? So they were already sharing their learnings. So that's how it evolved. And this was the agenda of what it looked like for the 1 hour sync. You'd start with the house rules. You have a welcome, prioritization of initiatives. So boss would do the welcome, and boss would talk about the prioritizations of the initiatives, and boss would also communicate to everybody in the department what was going on, what changes were happening in the higher level, and this is wow, this was going really well. Now, what happened to this welcome is it evolved into arrivals, departures, birthdays, babies. We were really creating a really nice culture where people felt fun and excited. And then all the teams went, closing and next step. And remember the quiz that was doing so well that everybody really loved it? We tacked the quiz at the end. Brilliant idea that somebody had from the team. And this is the metrics that we collected. So every 2 weeks, we would collect the metrics. So this is one of the weeks that we had. And at the end of the 2 months, we actually aggregated that. So at the start, 82% of the teams had no idea what the other team was working on. And at the end, 91% had better understanding, 79% found value, and 65% had a better shared understanding of priorities and alignment. Yeah? What are some of the other improvements? These were some of the improvements that we captured. You can see that it's prioritizing communication and collaboration over processes and tools. Winning, right? But this was really interesting. Building capability and confidence. Example, public speaking. So for that session that we hosted, the 1 hour session, we always ask for volunteers. Who would like to co-host or host with boss? Not me. I never hosted a single session. I was actually walking around the floors, trying to see if people were engaged. I was there to help tech. Sometimes I didn't even turn my camera on. Not that I don't want to turn my camera on, but I wanted it to be about them. Yeah? And what we did is when we asked for volunteers, we also offered coaching. So we say, who'd want to host? Oh, I'm really scared. Oh, but it's okay. You can go through it with us and we'll help you and we'll coach you. And some of the teams actually start to take turns as opposed to the Scrum Master always giving the updates all the time. And this really helped them articulate how to give stakeholder updates in really quick, sharp 3 minutes, right? So they saw this as a thing to help their career and help build capability. Experiment 3 failed, right? The problem was people wanted an avenue to upskill. There was no learning opportunity. We thought we'd set up a guild, people would volunteer, we'd have 3 people line up. Well, we only had 2 people line up and everybody just wanted to come. So this didn't work. We tried something else to help this problem. But I wanted to show you that we did have failed experiments. We shared it publicly. Hey ho, we just try something else, right? Because we had set this up at the start. So that helped guide us. Now, we're at the end of our talk. Toodle pips, my dear chums. So where are they at now and the biggest boss? So in a lot of the companies that I work with, I always make sure that I have one person and one friend. This goes back to 10 years, and I still keep in touch with them because I just want to know what's going on. It really helps me learning as a person. The biggest boss. So remember the biggest boss? I said we'll come back to him at the end. Well, if you listen to the song, it says, don't go chasing waterfalls, right? Stick to the rivers. And I know that you're going to have it your way or nothing at all, but I think you're moving too fast. Big Boss wanted it his way or nothing at all. Big Boss was not very happy about this. He thought we weren't going fast enough. And this is why I said, using the right terminology about, transformation and growth. And he thought it was a quick fix solution. Well, I just wanted to say to him, well, you don't just wake up one day and decide to be a butterfly, my dear friend. This takes time. So Big Boss also thought that having fun team names was strange and weird. And very slowly, things started to regress. And even though the appetite was high, the resistance was even higher. And people started to leave the company. Wasn't very nice, yeah? I started to retract as well. Things were not going very well. So what happened, right? What stuck, what did not? Because when we coach, we try and make it habits. Nothing really stuck because it wasn't long enough. And that's the problem, right? You always pull change agents. You pull your coaches too quickly. The quiz went on for a while, but after that, all the ones that really liked this left. So big bang versus smaller chunks. Which waterfall do I chase? Now this for me is I always think about this a lot because you always say, oh, do little chunks, right? Don't do a big bang approach. That consultancy did a big bang approach. And I felt that was right because they got everybody on the same page. And when this happened, everybody had that effect. You could feel the effects of the tremor in the organization. You could just walk around and you could just feel the atmosphere. So what happened then, right? I believe that I did make an impact to different people. It's that ripple effect. It's that story of the starfish. Do you know the story of the starfish? So there was a storm and all the starfish was just washed ashore. And there was a guy picking up the starfish and throwing the starfish, picking the starfish, throwing. And somebody said, well, why are you doing that? That's crazy. You're not going to help all the starfish. He picked one up and threw it in the ocean and he said it made a difference to that one. And that's how I see my work. I made a difference to that one person, right? Because I do believe it takes a village to raise an organization to be agile. Different people will come and go, will peck at the system differently. Just like the previous consultant, me, and I don't know, maybe you guys as well, right? And sometimes it just takes that one person to make a difference if we're in despair. So what's my introspection, right? I could not have done this if it wasn't for Boss, if I didn't have that great leadership that actually believed in me and kind of let me do a bit of what I wanted to do, what I wanted to introduce, was brave to actually let me try. And our teammates, with the working group that we formed, we had a really good bond. And the second thing I want to share is RACI. And I know everyone says, don't do RACI, it's the best way to assign blame. But you meet people where they are at, and you bring them on the journey. You're not going to change them overnight. Now, this organization needed RACI, because if there was no RACI, nobody would do anything. Not because they were lazy, it's just because of the environment that they were in. They were scared, right? And a lot of the times, people don't care about the entry strategy. They just go on, and they don't let people know what they're doing. And I always feel like I'm always a guest at your organization. I know that you have done some pretty awesome stuff, and that's why you're there where you're at, right? And I always believed doing change with people, not to them. Yeah? So don't put change in a department. Don't put innovation in a team, because it is everybody's responsibility. When you have a change department and innovation team, everybody thinks that that's not their job. It's very easy to fall into that. It's everybody's responsibility. Don't copy something from another organization. Every company has their own problems. Don't copy what I did, because some of the stuff that I do, it might not fit your personality or your working group's personality. Find your own thing, right? Working group, sustainable change. Get people involved, right? I embedded myself as part of the organization. There wasn't an us versus me versus them, or consultants or contractors. It was us, yeah? Don't do it in the open. Don't just have Agile people, working on this transformation thing and not sharing. You're just gonna lose people. And with the working group, what I wanna say is some of the experiments and some of the problems that we tried to solve, I was not the right person to take lead for that role, right? I probably didn't have the right skills or the right personality, right? Well, I wasn't me. I don't need to solve all the problems. And I always say, I'd rather be somebody's shot of whiskey than everybody's cup of tea. So we're good in some things, not so good in some things, right? The change we create is cumulative. So while you can affect the people that you initially interact, it builds over time. Right? Remote working, it can be done. Because during this time, I fell ill. For 6 weeks, I was ill and I had to work from home. There was also a small amount of people that had some serious conditions. I did a lot of this from home. And 90% was at work. So don't tell me otherwise. And in my experience, when I coach leaders, I don't know what it is, but it's just them being at home. They open up a lot more. So I've had the best success working from home. There you go. The culture of continual improvement is more important than the continual improvement itself. Try and create that culture. And while some people always say, that organization is really difficult, it's really difficult, well, guess what? If they're fine, they don't really need us, So while we might want to, have a little offload or something like that, just know that, they need our help and we feel wanted. So what am I getting at the end? Don't feel bad if this has happened to you. I know this has happened to a lot of us. I see some of you smiling at the back there. Everybody says that, Agile isn't working and Agile isn't working. But it's how you want to look at it. Think about all the staff issues that you have helped around the journey. And when people were leaving the organization, that was the point I knew it was working. That was my indicator, because I knew that they knew that there was a different way, and they went on to carry on this work. So this will remain the top 3 gigs I have ever had in my life. I miss them so much. I had so much independence that I actually could do this, and I really hope to get the opportunity again. So there you go. Thank you very much. Agile on the Beach. If you want to follow me on LinkedIn, I think I'm fairly active there. There is the QR code for feedback, but it is not, the last time I checked this morning, it was still showing Thursday, so didn't worry. And that is Fluffington Wolf. He is with me on all my Agile adventures. Thank you very much.